Okay, these are your notes for lesson 10-3. And I know we're going a little out of order here, but we got to work on how to simplify a square root or a radical. Okay, so I think that's kind of an important point right here. That when this says radical, okay, we're actually just talking about square root. Okay, so I could say the radical of 25, or I could say the square root of 25. Okay, but when you see the word radical, it just means square root. Okay. All right, so on example 1 here, now I understand that we can go ahead and type this in our calculator, and your calculator automatically is going to spit out a 16 for you. Okay, and that's fabulous. However, there's going to be parts where we have to be able to do this without a calculator or be able to do it by hand. So when you are trying to simplify a radical, you're going to make a factor tree. And you guys probably did these back in junior high. So you're going to start and using prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, start with the smaller numbers here. Will 2 go into 256? Yeah. So go ahead and write down 2 and then take 256, divide it by 2, and you're going to get 128. Now, the 2 right here, this can't go any farther, so we're just going to leave it as is. The 128, though, can definitely go farther. So if I look at this, it'll go to 2 and 64, okay? And then at this point, your 64 would go to 8 and 8. And your 8s would go to 2 and 4, 2 and 2. And it'll be the same thing on this guy, 2 and 4, and 2 and 2. Okay? So now the rule of thumb is that we're going to pair them up and move them out. All right? Pair them up, move them out. So let's go and look at kind of a real basic problem. So if I'm looking at the square root of 25, right, you guys would probably break that down to 5 times 5. Well, that's the definition of square root. One of 2 equal factors. So you have a 5 and 5 here that are equal factors, and our answer is 5 because you're only writing one of them down. So they pair up and it moves out and turns into just 1. Well, it's going to be the same thing here. You pair them up. So I'm going to have a pair of 2s. Okay, now also I think it's important to note, if you've broke it down, you are not looking at those guys. So anything that was broken down is out. You don't mess with that, okay? So 2s pair up and move out. 2s pair up and move out. 2s pair up and move out. And 2s pair up and move out. Now, everything had a pair, so everything moves out. So, again, square roots is all about multiplication. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. And that's where that answer is coming from, okay? Now, on a side note real quick here, if I backtrack to here, if you see you have a pair of 8s early on, I am fine with you not doing all of this. You can just take the 2 times the 8 here, and that'll also get you to a 16. So as soon as you have a pair, we're good to go, okay? On number 2, okay? Again, pair them up, move them out. So 112, I know it's an even, so I'm going to divide it by 2 and get 56, okay? I'm going to divide 56 by 2 and get 28. 28 I'm going to divide by 2 and get 14. And 14 will go to 2 and 7. Okay? So now I'm going to pair them up and move them out. Okay? Now, notice here, this poor little guy doesn't have a pair, which means he doesn't get to move out. And again, I am not looking at these guys because I broke all of those guys down. All right? So when I pair them up, move them out, so the 2 and 2s, those would go to the outside. Okay, so both the 2s move out. Now this 7, unfortunately, has to stay on the inside because he doesn't have a buddy, so he doesn't get to move out. So now I'm going to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I have this poor little guy right here, this 7. He's stuck on the inside, so I put the 7 on the inside. Okay, so the square root of 112 is equal to 4 radical 7, okay? Now, please understand that these are exact answers, okay? So if you put in your calculator the square root of 112, it will a lot of times give you like 10.85, etc. It just keeps on going, okay? This is an approximate solution. So this is about what it is as decimal form, but this is exact, okay, which we started talking about earlier this year by leaving pi and things and stuff like that, okay, so exact. All right, so let's try it again. So 288, all right, I'm going to break it down. So I'm going to get 2 and 144. Now, I know that square root of 144 is 12s, so I'm going to go ahead and do 12s. if you didn't know 12s, that's okay. You just keep going, okay? So when I look at this, I've got a pair of 12s moves out. So I've got 12 on the outside and 2 on the inside, okay? Now, if you're a person who didn't maybe see the 12s and you kept breaking it down and you would say like 3 and 4, 2 and 2, 3 and 4, and 2 and 2. So the 2s and the 3s, you got to see both of them, would pair up and move out. Remember this 4, no and no, okay? So now let's think about this for a second. If I were to do 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is still 12, okay? So it doesn't matter if you see the 12s early on or not, you should still get the same answer. Okay, let's go to number 4. So on number 4, okay, on this one, you could do 2s, you could do 5. I'm going to just change it up a little bit. And I'm going to do 5 and 10, and then 2 and 5. Okay, so now again, don't do anything with that 10, right? Now pairs. I have a pair of 5s. Pairs move out. So I have a 5 on the outside, and then this poor little 2, he doesn't have anywhere to go. He's stuck on the inside. So my answer would be 5 radical 2 or 5 square root 2. Okay, 216. Let's go ahead and break this down. 216 divided by 2 will be 108. And then I'm going to get 2 and 54. And then 2, 27. See, 27 will go to 3 times 9. And then 9 will go to 3 times 3. Okay, so again, pair them up, move them out. Pair of 2s, pair of 3s. Okay, so both of these move out, right? Okay, so that would be 8. 2 times 3 is 6. Now on the inside, I have this little 2 and this little 3 left over. It doesn't have any buddies, so it stays on the inside. And so when you have stuff like this left on the inside, again, you're just still going to multiply. 2 times 3 would be 6. Okay? All right, let's look at the last one here. All right, so we're going to square root of 24. So 24, I'm going to break it to 4 and 6. My 4 will go to 2 and 2. My 6 will go to 2 and 3. Again, pair them up, move them out. So I've got 2 on the outside. And then if I look here, these poor little guys don't have any buddies, so they're stuck on the inside. And I'll have 2 times 3 or 6 left on the inside. Again, don't include these guys because you've broken them down, okay? Now, guys, you can do a lot of these on your calculator and check to make sure you get it right. However, I am going to expect to see work, no credit. So you can type these in your calculator. Some of your guys' calculators, like if you've got the ones like the yellow ones in the classroom, some of those will give you these answers for you so you can check to make sure they're right, okay? However, I expect to see work. And that concludes your notes for today.